Hello and a very warm welcome to episode 4 of Turnkey and Trimmings. My name is Lee Cummings and I'm here today in the podcast studio with David, our CEO, and Naseer, our CSO. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the invite.
You're very welcome anytime. So today on the episode, we are going to go back in time a little bit. We're going to have a little bit of a chat around the construction industry, the fit-out industry, renovations, and how it has been and how it is and how it is going to be in the future. So this is why we've got David, who's our CEO, and then we've got Naseer, who's our Chief Strategy Officer, and they're going to offer some insight into how things have gone, what they've done, and how things are going to go. The introduction of technology, how things are changing, and what the future holds for companies like Contractors.Direct and the renovation niche or market in itself. So let's go back in time. Who would like to talk about how it was in...
Well, I think I should go to the oldest in the group, shouldn't we? So that's you, Barry. You tell us.
I wasn't going to go down the age route, but, well, you've been in the industry for quite a long time, so you've got some insight. You used to do some of the fit-out stuff back in the UK before you came over here. Naseer, you've got experience on your side, shall we say, from that side of things?
A little bit.
A little bit. So maybe, all joking aside, then let's start with you, Naseer. First time on the podcast, so very warm welcome. I'm glad to have you here. Give us a little bit of a rundown of yourself, actually, first of all, because we haven't had that introduction, just of your background, and then just into the whole construction, renovation, how things used to happen, how things happened back in your day, air quotes, and then we'll jump into a bit of David's experience.
Yeah, so where do I start from? Right from when I was born, or more?
Well, go as far back as you like. We don't have to go back to any level.
So I have been almost sort of a gypsy life. Went through about 8 or 10 schools, boarding schools in India. Then I was at Kuwait, finished my first 2 years of uni in Cyprus, then went to the US. And then I started my working career from Hong Kong. So even in my professional career, I've been all over the place in Hong Kong, the Middle East, CIS countries, Kazakhstan's doing all sorts of different businesses, right from manufacturing of watches and electronics in China to trading, oil and gas in Kazakhstan, and doing quite a bit of real estate, more on the retail investment side, and developed a hotel here for a friend of mine. So fair bit of experience, but not real experience. So I don't come from an architectural or a civil construction background. As a kid, I was always very interested in design and interiors and so forth. And of course, to save costs, I do my own fit outs in my house. In the villa that I had, I actually got the team together, bought all the materials together. It was not the brightest of ideas, but I did it nevertheless, and I did it twice. It turned out okay though. So so I've seen different types of construction, the different kind of I would say nationalities or countries of origin, just to give you an idea on how things were done in Hong Kong. For the longest time, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least for about 5 or 8 years ago, I'd still see like tall buildings. Might not be skyscraper, but like 50 to 80 meter high buildings, and the scaffolding would still be used bamboo. They would still use bamboo scaffolding. It's just amazing. And I guess if you try to modernize that and try to give them the more metal kind of scaffolding, they would probably take, 10 times more time to do that. And these guys would just, like Spider-Man, just, keep on tying the bamboo scaffold and then moving up. And then as they would finish the work, they would just tie down the scaffolding and it would cover that. So incredible stuff. In Kazakhstan, it was... And then, of course, it depends on the kind of weather that you are in. Kazakhstan, it gets extremely cold. So a lot of Turkish construction companies out there, they have their own kind of stuff doing. And then there's a lot of oil and gas work, industrial work. So there's a lot of prefab sort of buildings made out of light steel and containers and so forth. I think I'm talking a lot from my first part.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
It's a podcast, but
Podcast is all about talking. So yeah,
don't worry, we'll be able to cut it out. You're too boring. Let's go out.
I can see it was Turnkey and Trimmings.
But it is your insight into how things have been done in various different countries is interesting, because we want to tie that into what's going on now and then into the future. But before we get to that, David, had your hand in this industry for quite a while, both back in the UK and here. How did it used to be when you were sort of doing that stuff with your dad back in the UK?
To be honest, it wasn't actually dramatically different to what it is today. But what I will say is that I think looking forward 10 years, it will be dramatically different. So if you look kind of like the early 1900s, there was very little evolution, full stop. I'm talking about the UK in general. It was typically slate roofs, traditional brick, walls, timber staircase, timber beams forming the first floor and, the ground floor, all that kind of stuff. And then there was an evolution of products first. And by the time you got to, I think it was the late 70s or early 80s, they started to play with replacing traditional brick with, blocks, and then insulated blocks. And then obviously you went from wooden frame, single pane windows to double glazed, then UPVC. And so it was an evolution of products first, but it was always installed with human labor. And, we've all seen those videos online, in particular in LinkedIn, where you've got like dry lining, for example, and is now being done by a machine, laying blocks by a machine and all the rest of it. We're very, very far away from that today. Is it going to remain that way forever? I'm not sure. Because if you cast your mind back, what would have been 15 years ago, I guess, or maybe 12 years ago, Dubai was the first country or city, I guess, to do a building, albeit one story, using a 3D printing machine, which was basically this arm that was following a drawing and just layer and layer and layer, kind of like a Mr. Whippy ice cream, but cement. And everybody was fascinated by it. But what you don't realize is that when you're 3D printing a house, especially in the early days, is that you have essentially solid walls and no conduits. So, you think that you're getting a, 8-meter wide room, but actually because it's concrete or, cement on the outside, you then have to still do your timber battens. You still have to run the conduits. Then you've got to do your dry lining. So that 8 meters soon becomes, 7.6. And then you're like, well, what was the point of that? Just to say that we did it. I mean, obviously it's a lot more advanced now. And one of the things that Naseer mentioned, which has come on an insane amount, is prefab. So we all remember prefab, or certainly I remember prefab as, council estate, low-income housing, usually asbestos. There was nothing glamorous attached to it. All sandwich panels, all that kind of stuff. But actually, the prefab housing market now is nuts, absolutely nuts. Some of the stuff coming out of China, it's like, when you buy a bedside table from IKEA, it just arrives in a flat box and you get, a 4-page instruction manual. You skip past Chinese, Arabic, Portuguese, and then you find the English bit, and there's only 4 points. It's similar to that, and it comes part assembled. So you just lift up the walls, push the walls out, and the roof is already there, the windows are already there. It's amazing. And a lot of them have got 20-year warranties. I think modular housing in particular is going to boom. I think it's going to go bananas, especially because now they're figuring out ways for lighter construction, because a lot of the time you were limited by the amount of weight that was being put on, essentially on the floor, ground level. But now, because building materials and building methods are becoming more efficient and lighter, you can actually go more stories up without exceeding the maximum weight. But yeah, it's that the products continue to evolve. I was
going to say, because products we will get into a bit more, and it is changing. But I wanted to go back to the human element and the sort of the skill set back in the day when people were learning this trade and things like apprenticeships. I don't know, did you ever do an apprenticeship or know anyone that did an apprenticeship?
So I did an apprenticeship to be an aircraft engineer.
Okay. And that worked out well.
Yeah. I didn't complete it, unfortunately. I think I was in year 2, and then we all got laid off, which sucks. So I did what most people do at 17, 18 years old and worked in a bar. It was brilliant.
Yeah, fair enough.
I had the time of my life.
I bet you did. Yeah. Well, that's a different episode. Yeah. See, did you do anything like an apprenticeship or anything along those lines of sort of physical hands-on?
Not
No.
really. I mean, not in the construction trade for sure. Did a lot of watchmaking. I mean, but that was a little bit more intricate,
Yeah.
as you might know. But yeah, so I'm pretty. I think I probably have the eye to detail because of that, because the tolerance levels of anything going wrong is very, very high there, and you need to be very careful.
Yeah, absolutely. So then this idea of this knowledge transfer, so the reason I'm asking this question is because obviously technology is taking over from a number of roles, but the back when I was at university or just coming into university, the idea of doing sort of an HND or a diploma, which was much more of a hands-on learning education than the degree was almost looked down upon as you're going to do a lesser qualification. And this was only 25 years ago from that side of
Where
things.
was this?
In the UK.
Really?
In the UK is that if you're going to go and do a bachelor, then okay, you're going to university. If you're going to go to college, you're like, oh, you're only going to college, you're going to do an HND, a higher national diploma, you're going to do this kind of thing. But then those guys that went and did carpentry, plumbing, electrical work are now laughing on the other side of their face because they're in such high demand right now that, and I know a friend of mine who's a developer in the UK, it's like, whatever they tell me in terms of timescale and cost, I say yes. Because I need them, and they are in such high demand. So, well, there's a wait list of 4 months, and I'm going to have to charge you X thousand pounds. And it's like, yep, just put me in.
Yeah.
Just please put my name down so that we can get these ones done. And what's your opinion on that in terms of the whole shift towards the service-led studies where we didn't need to learn how to do those skills into the construction and fit-out industry, and then where does that lead us when it comes to the technology that's going to, again, I'm just putting this out there, take over from everybody?
So to your point, the reason I ask you where is because I thought that was just an Asian thing. If you do a diploma or something, it's not so highly regarded like a degree or something else would. But I think what you mentioned about the other part of it's also very territorial. I mean, even today in places like India, subcontinent, these are things that you won't ask your kid to go and, it could be a hobby. Okay, I do carpentry in my garage, but that's not a profession.
Right.
Simply because I think there's, the population enables very, very, very cheap labor even till today. So, that you could do it hobby, you could make something, you can make a table, but you won't do it as a respected a family, your reputable family, you won't do that.
Yeah. It was definitely not frowned upon, so that's the wrong phrase, but it was looked down upon. People are saying, oh, you are only, or it was almost one of those things where in the UK you've got this whole idea of you apply to university, if you don't make it, you go through clearing, and then it's almost a case of where can you go? Oh, you can go here, or you can do a diploma here, or go to college, and very much people are like, oh, so you're taking a step down from that side of things. But again, to the smile on the other side of the face for those guys that went and did the hands-on things. But where does that then, it's interesting you say in terms of territory and location, where does that put us for the next generation in terms of these skills? And here, we see we see things on sites with electricians and plumbers and HVAC people. You think, I'm not sure that's acceptable. It's not acceptable. It's dangerous. And that's happening. And does that mean that developing technology to take over those roles is a positive thing, or is it, you're still not going to be able to have something that can go in and do certain things that a person can?
I don't think that there's a lot of jobs that I don't think can be replaced by robots, because a lot of what you do is very, very site specific and based on the site conditions of that day. So you can get a set of drawings that could be generated by AI, a set of 3D generated by AI, but materials are still going to be delivered to site. Those materials need to then be installed, whether it's, on the ceiling, on the floor, whatever else it is. How are you going to get a robot? If I saw one the other day where it's laying tiles, right? This thing had a big arm and all that kind of stuff, which is fine for a ground floor.
Mm.
How are you going to get it up? It wouldn't fit in the lift. I'm sure it's more than several hundred kilos. No one's carrying that up the stairs. You're not going to winch it in through the window. Plus, also as well as that, when you have a look at the overall intricacy, let's just look at wiring.
Mm.
So just in this office, this maybe 12 floor boxes, few wall sockets, light switches, everything requires a current, and it all goes back to our distribution board. And I don't think a robot's going to be able to do that. So, and even our ceiling, like this ceiling, this arrived in gypsum panels. You had to do the frame, then you got to do the conduits, then the conduits, then the frame, then the ducting, conduits, ducting, frame. Let's get it the right way around. And then you got to do the panels, all the AC grills. A robot can't do that either. I'm not saying that.
Can you program it to do that?
I don't think so. Maybe. China's coming out with some incredible stuff at the moment, but just let's take a moderate-sized contractor. So I'll pick one from our database. I won't say who it is, but I would hazard a guess that they're on live 20 sites.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to be able to execute a project fast, you can't have just one robot on that one site. You'd have to have multiple robots starting in different corners and kind of either working their way down or working their way into the middle, however you want to do it. And then there's 20 sites. So 20 sites times 4 robots, there's 80 robots. I don't know how much they cost, even if you're going to lease them, that's an insane amount of money, and they're not going to get it right. You still need a human to watch what they're doing and to follow behind them and do the finishing works. So I'm not convinced.
What about you, Naseer?
I think it also depends. I think a lot of stuff that can be standardized. I think, for example, laying tiles, it's happening, right? And a robot which is programmed mathematically it's amazing what technology is doing. What the easiest thing for technology to do is to solve mathematical problems or to create something, engineering drawings or whatever, because that has math. What was difficult was the creativity, and the scary part is that they're doing that. So laying of tiles, painting, when you have the whole, I don't know how they do it, but the whole, spray coming up and down and just finishing it off. It's not giving you visa issues and not lying to you and, not going for a small break and stuff like that. I think the problem here is it's very interesting because you have both the West and the East, or, the Asia collide.
Yeah.
As you have pressures, it's not just about technology. It's about people, their mentalities. It's about competition. It's about costs, So in the beginning, at least, the technology is always going to be more expensive because you're experimenting, versus somebody coming from the subcontinent who's working for a very, very low salary. And that is why I think technology comes in very, very late in places where you have a lot of cheap labor. It's as simple as that. And I think it's also to do a lot with, I don't know whether they have sort of a experimentation center here or something, from a government body or a contractor's body or something, where you could have these technologies and have these robots go and sort of do all these kind of experiments. Because I'm sure they'll be probably sort of need to get some kind of a licensing or need to get some kind of approval before these kind of things are actually let loose. Yeah. Because there is a gentleman, there's a Russian guy who approached me for funding. He's actually developing a robot for the construction industry to lift and deliver. So he could probably take something off the truck, offload it, carry it over the flight of stairs and give it on the first floor.
An actual humanoid robot.
Well, yeah, because you've seen some of them now, and you said it before. How are you going to get it? But if it's a human-sized robot and it has unlimited, we will struggle to lift 50 kilos and carry out one. And this thing will just 50 kilos in each hand, or however many it does, and just run them up 100 flights of stairs and then run back down again and just keep doing it.
And there's all sorts of things happening. I saw another video where there was this teeny, petite Chinese woman, and she had some kind of It's like almost like
Bionic,
like yeah, bionic.
yeah.
It was just legs. It was like almost like a
Exoskeleton.
half body suit.
Yeah.
And she was picking weights like, which was at least 2 or 3 times her body weight.
Yeah.
Just picking it up and just putting it because she was able to do that.
Yeah.
So
So this is why it's an interesting conversation, because there's a lot of manual labor involved with construction, fit out, and that sort of things. And you said before, AI and technology is good at figuring out the maths problems, but also strength.
Yeah.
You've just got pneumatics and whatever that you just turn up the tolerance, and now this thing will just walk around with half a ton in its hand and move it around and not complain. And we were having that conversation last week around someone who's built the robot that can help replace the poor guys that sit outside in 45-degree heat as security on these sites. And there's a robot that can sit there and do that instead.
did you see that video where the robot actually went rogue and he started
Oh yeah.
Is that real?
Well,
or was that one of the Boston Dynamics?
No, it was real apparently, but it was because it was attached onto its head, and so its gyros were going nuts because it couldn't balance itself. It was being held on, and so then it started flailing around because it thought, I'm falling. But it looked like it suddenly went nuts and started attacking.
So imagine getting slapped by your security guard the next time you go home.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sure there's a few people that probably need one, but
yeah, guaranteed.
But this is what I'm intrigued to understand in terms of what we do with Contractors.Direct and the project management side of things. We touched on it before in terms of, okay, there's certain things maybe on a site that we can do, but let's go into this idea of highly skilled labor and just dig a little bit deeper on the project management side of things, because where does the tech or how does that evolve in the future when it comes to what our preferred project management partner, project people, they are real people on site doing all of the sort of the approvals, the tenders, the BOQs, and then they're managing relationships with people as well. Where does the technology come in there, or what's it going to evolve into?
The bottom line is, I don't think anybody knows. Like right now, the majority of moderate-sized project management consultancies are leveraging technology as best they can just to be more efficient. I don't think the goal, and I certainly don't think it is for project people, I don't think the goal is to get rid of humans. I think it's to enable humans to be able to do their job better and maybe take on more work, but obviously without sacrificing customer service and quality. One thing that was scary, and I can't remember who I was speaking to about it because I've slept since, but it was, we were talking about a robot. And so a mate of mine in the UK, he's got this lawnmower that knows the edges of the lawn, right? And this thing, it recharges. He's now got a vacuum that does the same thing. It's about 20 centimeters high and about 40 centimeters in diameter. And every 3 or 4 days, it powers up and then it goes out and it mows the lawn. And it covers every single inch bar none because it knows the size. And then we were thinking, well, how could we potentially apply that? Could we apply a similar theory to project management? So rather than doing daily site visits, could we have a robot in the corner with 4K vision that knows that the every millimeter of the office and just goes around, scans the office, generates essentially a virtual tour, a 4K virtual tour, and if there's any discrepancies, pre-programmed AI, if it looks like this, it's incorrect. If it looks like this, then it's correct, and just flags all of the potential issues, dangers, challenges, and then cross-checks what it's just seen with the program. So, and we came up with that in like a 20-minute conversation. 5 years ago, we wouldn't have seen, kind of like the advances that we do now. So that thought wouldn't have even been there. But now it's like, do you know what? I think we could probably build that. Or there's probably a company that is building that. And it's not to replace humans. If anything, it's more to, rather than do a daily site visit, you do 2 a week.
Mm-hmm.
And that client now can benefit from lower rates, as in fees. And that PM, rather than doing 2 to 3 projects, could probably do 4 to 5 and do it very, very well. But so from a project management perspective, there's a whole bunch of AI tools out there at the moment. I mean, we're using a couple ourselves, and they are phenomenal. They really are phenomenal. You just plug in the data. The prompt has got to be incredibly detailed, but the output is beautiful. And what would have taken a PM 6 hours to do is now be, you could turn it around in 45 minutes, an hour maybe. But again, it's very human led. It's relationships led. Clients, certainly a lot of clients that I've seen, they don't, well, I don't think they'd want to deal with a robot anyway.
Well, we're going to come to this because I agree to a certain extent, but then we're all of a certain age. We've all lived a life.
Let's get a millennial.
Well, this is what I'm saying, is that how many generations ahead is it that they'll be like, I don't care.
Yeah.
If it's a robot, if it's a human, I really don't care. I just want to know that the thing's done.
Which one's cheaper?
Yeah. So I think a very interesting point that David just made, and I just want to elaborate on that, is the costs coming down without compromising on quality. And I was talking to Helen the other day, project people, and I think they're coming out with something extremely interesting. With using technology, they have freed up more time for the PMs. So essentially sort of energizing them and automating them, and then, making them even more efficient and bringing the cost down. So when I did my house, for example, I didn't have an option, or at least I did not know that I could find a project manager for, let's say 12,000-15,000 dirhams a month. And my project would take 3 months to do. So that would be, 45,000. So if I spend 600 to 700,000 dirhams or 1 million dirhams or even 500,000 dirhams, that is an absolute necessity. And that project management product or service, whatever you may call that, does not exist in the market. And people, unless the general, what people understand in the market is that project managers are for big projects or commercial projects, or if you have a mansion, then you get a proper team which might have a project manager do that. But today that is possible. And that saves, I did it myself. So I was running between home and office. There were
issues.
Quite a few, issues is a very
polite way of saying
I toned down word, but, and the stress level.
Yeah.
I actually ended up paying 2 months of extra rent because, and we have a friend who's going through the same thing now.
Yeah.
Right. So then of course, not knowing stuff and trying to understand, and not many people have the time, and I would do it, and I came out okay because I have a genuine interest in it, and now we are doing that business as well, right? But for general people, they won't care less, and they would pay that extra money to have that headache. It's just the risks are too high. You actually, I think you actually save more money by getting a project manager, at least, rather than in itself. Yeah.
Well, that's what they guarantee, right?
Yeah.
They guarantee to save you more money than they cost.
Absolutely.
So have they started doing that? The kind of like the
I think
more
they
cost
have.
effective?
They're putting the word in the market now. I think
Okay.
it should slowly.
Projects of a certain size, right? That they can do that.
Yeah.
It's-
You're not talking about the typical small going and fixing toilets or something like that. So, but
No, but if it's
Okay,
a
cool.
relatively, if it's a retrofit or
Yeah.
something like that,
Absolutely.
300,000-400,000 dirham kitchen and downstairs or whatever.
Yeah, it could even be if you generally need somebody to come, and you could go you wouldn't know how to read a BOQ, for example. You wouldn't know how to read a drawing, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and this for a project manager is just like
Bread and butter. Yeah.
and then teeth or whatever, and just telling you, and that's why it would cost much less, and make sure that you, or at least try and minimize as much as possible of getting into any kind of disaster.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Let alone, approval processes and getting on site and managing a contractor and doing all these other things that they physically do. At least, again, no brainer from that side of things. They're worth their weight in gold for sure. But you want to say something?
I was going to ask, have you seen the quality of the image on the CCTV cameras that they put in on their sites approaching people?
Yeah.
And have you tested the two-way? It's unbelievable. So it's I did. CCTV has been around for years, right? No, it was somebody was attempting to light a cigarette on site, not a residential. It was a construction site. The windows weren't even in, and it wasn't me. But obviously, when he was showing me it, like you can zoom in, like you can zoom in, you can see a nail on the floor, and the camera is like 4 meters away. It's incredible. And then he was shouting through, "Don't you dare even think about sparking that up!" Like, oh, what? Anyway.
I think that even on a product side, that would be, uh, I think the initial phase of the CCTVs or whatever. I think model number 2 would be where, you don't need a human to do that. And that's what computer vision is, right? So for example, you train the AI via the camera that, okay, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, do not step over this line. Just like an alarm. And it'll do that.
Yeah.
If he spots any anomaly, a guy smoking, or if there's smoke coming out anywhere, it's going to raise an alarm.
But that's what the last bit was around, this whole idea of safety and then sustainability, but safety in particular, whereby, and again, you alluded to this earlier, that in places like the subcontinent where human resource is cheap, the value associated with it is low. And I remember back in the day on the ground here in the UAE, you see around all of the construction sites, how many days it's been since we last had an accident, and PPE and all of this kind of stuff is a priority. But then you would still hear about the unfortunate scenarios where people were losing their lives for whatever reason. If we're replacing that human element with AI, with robots, with machines and whatnot, is that not a net positive thing?
It's actually, what are they going to do? It's a very, very interesting question again, because what do you do with the livelihoods of these people?
Yeah.
And a lot of them, you just cannot upskill them.
Yeah.
And I personally feel it's going to be a huge issue. Eventually, it's going to be a very, very huge issue where people are out of jobs. You don't know what. I mean, you just cannot upskill them.
Yeah, no, and it's one of the reasons I think about
There
this.
are too many of them.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
but that it requires a fundamental change in just society and how we operate and what's what, which is this whole, like, kind of what I was referring to before about the next generations who won't mind that there isn't a human being building that relationship with them on site as their project manager. If it's a human or it's a bot, they don't mind.
If us, as an example, remember when we were testing, we were talking with our own AI systems. After a while, it just became very natural.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't think that you're talking to, you're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, like you said, who's on the other side. You're just having a conversation as long as that person is talking sense.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Because even in my last conversation with the AI agent, I just completely switched off. I wasn't, overly aware that I wasn't speaking to a human.
I think you were practicing your accents, actually.
I was. Well, what did I was busting out American and
Scottish,
Scottish,
just to test it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting in terms of just where it will go. But what are then the last bit on this one, aside from sort of health and safety, what about this idea of sustainability and green development, green construction, from an interior design perspective? Does the technology impact this whole thing around biophilic, having more? There's a plant over there, more greenery inside, airflow, setup of offices. Does the technology impact that? Is that still something that will be human led? Does it make a difference in terms of sustainability, or not really?
Could you not have sent us these questions before we sat down? I've only just thought of these questions.
So no, I'm concerned. I have absolutely no idea, because there's so many different sets of, schools of thought and information's flying around. For example, the whole electric vehicles, for example. There's one, you hear that, oh, they're so good because they're not polluting and this and that. And then there's another set of data that comes which says the amount of, damage it has done in building those is far worse than actually having them.
No.
So I have absolutely no idea. It's the same goes for the material that we use, the way they have been manufactured. shipped,
Mm-hmm.
used. I don't know. It's just there's too much to try and balance and offset.
Yeah, indeed. Do you have a final comment on that?
No, my head is completely empty. There's birds in there at the moment. That is a question that is really difficult to answer, because even if we were going to go to Google or ChatGPT to try and figure out what either is available in the public domain or what ChatGPT seems to think about this, I don't think there is a definitive that would point to say, yes, it is going to be more sustainable, or no, it's not, because I think it's going to boil down to the uptake, because, by having all these robos and everything else is a huge CapEx investment. It's not just the products, it's also the software, then the updates. Speak to anybody with a joinery factory that's got, the latest equipment, versus a human that's been doing it for the last 20 years that's absolutely magnificent at their job.
Yeah.
But the one thing that is terrifying, I know you didn't want to, or this wasn't on the agenda, is actually the potential of mass unemployment as a result of, and there was a guy I was speaking to, a friend of mine 4 years ago now, actually, 2021. I thought he was crazy. He sold his law firm, and he said, trust me, mate, I've sold it at the right time. And I was like, what, just after COVID, you're just getting it, and he was like, no, trust me, in a couple of years' time, there will be AI writing all of the contracts and all the rest of it. And our jobs will be taken from, essentially 20 hours down to 2. We'll just be reviewing and amending documents that are being written by AI. And I was like, no, you're crazy, dude. Lo and behold, I mean, you definitely did the right thing,
I'm writing.
See? Yeah, true. Good point. But this is the point. I think the rise of technology and AI is definitely going to cause some issues for some, market segments and disciplines. But I don't think it's going to replace human intervention entirely. I think a company will either have the same output but with less humans, or keep the same amount of humans and have a much higher output. But I am worried about, because the population is growing, and now there's less dependency on humans, right?
But maybe that means humans get to do other stuff. Again, that's a whole other topic in terms of doing what we're supposed to do, which was to be human beings and enjoy art.
But being human beings requires you to have money. You got to.
At this point.
So what are you saying? We all move to a commune? And
I'm not saying that we will have to commune. I'm saying that the world.
I'm not against that, by the way.
The world that we recognize today is, and trying to think of how the solution will come with the brain that exists in this one is very difficult, because they say you can't fix the problem with the same brain that created the problem.
Yeah.
And so it's going to take, our kids coming through and go, why don't we do this? Or maybe even some of the Gen Zs that we employ, like, why don't we do it differently? Why not do this? Why can't society operate like this? Why can't all these people have that? And again, for me, that sounds ridiculous. That can't happen. But the way things are moving, maybe it can. Maybe it can happen. And these people that can't be upskilled can do something else. Those that are going to, again, be displaced by technology get to do something else. I don't know. I'm just thinking positively that it will happen.
I would love for the next podcast to be about that.
Yeah.
Because I've got so much that I would like to share, questions that I'd like to ask you, and also questions that I'd like to ask everyone else, because I'm trying to build a picture now. I've got 3 kids, 10, 7, and 6, all boys. They're bananas, absolutely bananas. And I want to try and do what I can to pave the way for them to have a successful future. But I don't know what that success looks like.
Yeah.
1, to them, and 2, to us. The opportunities that are around today, for employment or creating businesses, they can be completely different in 20 years' time when they're ready.
But you also said, like, I mean, the next generation, the way they look at it, the way they adapt to it is going to be different. I mean, I didn't fly the A380 for 6 months. I wanted to see that it can still fly. Still to do it. If I'm going to get a robo house help, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
When I open,
you're not getting the first one. I'm going to wait a few people to have it. But Guys, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for your input on this. It has always been really interesting. Thank you to everybody that has listened and tuned in on this one. Please don't forget to follow us on the digital channels at Contractors.Direct, Contractors.Direct as our website. And also, if you see this and you've got some insight and some answers to the questions that we've posed, because we don't know what we don't know. So if you've got ideas on sustainability, on the whole healthcare side of things, what AI is doing, some of the questions that we struggle to answer but have opinions on, then leave them in the comments. Let's start a conversation around that, and we hope to see you on the next episode. Before we get to that, apparently our marketing team, our social media team, have come up with something for us to do slightly differently. It's called...
Would it involve donuts?
There's no donuts. Oh, well, I don't know, actually. That's plastic.
donuts?
There's no donuts. It's a section called Project Wars, and on the screen, you guys and me, I guess, are going to have a look at some samples of projects, and we're going to be, I don't know if we're going to be rating them or we're going to be just going whether they're good or bad. And
Hang on, are these projects that we've been involved in or not?
I don't know.
We don't know. Okay, so it's a lucky dip. Great.
It is a complete lucky dip. So
Lucky
yeah, we'll
draw.
want your reaction. We want your reaction. Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not bad.
Is that in
Such a-
Dubai? I don't know. Could it be? Was that in Dubai? Is that kitchen in Dubai? That's really nice.
Very well done. That must be one of ours.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Must be.
Definitely one of
Oh,
ours.
here we go. This one's
Yeah.
called I Was Just Helping My Brother-in-Law. This is
Okay.
going to be interesting.
Let's play this one. What happens next?
Oh, my God. What? What?
Oh dear.
My word.
That's about the right face.
Jeez.
Oh man, that was bad.
Yeah, that's bad. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be his brother at that point in
is-
time.
I wouldn't want to be his neighbor.
Yeah. Is this the same one?
2 tons of concrete.
No,
we
Oh
got
no,
them.
this is a different one.
Oh, hang about. I recognize that one.
This
Nice.
is very well done.
Very nice.
I really, really enjoyed that project. That was I think it was the third one we did in that building in 6
Where was this?
The old Do building in Media City, Internet City.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. Super simple design.
It goes to show it doesn't have to be complicated.
No, well, the idea was that they're unbranded offices. So they're semi build to suit. So if your business was 20 to 30 staff, you could just move straight in.
Yeah.
Put your logo on the reception desk and on the door, and you're away.
And away you go. Yeah. Great idea. And well executed.
Oh, thank you very much. I think I did that one myself.
No way.
I see Jenny everywhere.
Was that Jenny in that one as well?
Here we go. Oh.
Handsome devil.
How did he get in there?
How long does this one last?
20 years. This is long. It's
20 years ago. To be fair, this was 18 months ago, and I've had a lot of silver hair since then. I mean, it was silver there, but it's silver now.
all right.
Okay, what's next?
Oh.
Oh,
Whoa. It's like a kid drew something.
Oh.
Oh.
Wow.
do you know
Whoa.
what? I've seen worse.
Oh, have you?
I've seen worse, yeah. I've seen much worse.
No, I haven't
He-
seen
Here.
anything worse.
Yeah,
than
yeah.
this.
That's
Interesting use of spaces, I'll give you.
Was this a kindergarten project? No.
Do you know what? When that's grouted, I bet you it doesn't look as bad. I mean, the overcuts there look dreadful, but
Maybe a colored grouting. Could give it a Gaudi look.
yeah, you would definitely achieve the Cody look with that.
Yeah.
Honestly, guys, I've seen worse. I mean, I'd still score that a 4 to 5, but I've seen.
4 to 5 year old.
Yeah.
This must be one of ours. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
be.
Camera work. Exquisite.
That is beautiful. Do you know which one that is?
Oh, I've forgotten which project it is, but it is
Were
very
it Jumeirah Golf Estates? It was. Oh, I'm getting a thumbs up from the cameraman.
very nice.
Yeah, I think that one was for an investor. I think he bought it at 9, spent 3.5,
and then sold it.
and then sold it on for 18.
That was
All in the space of 10 months.
wow.
And then he went on to the next one,
Yeah.
which he bought for 16. I think it was 16, spent 3.5, sold it for 24.
That's
Yeah, those margins, unfortunately, are not there anymore.
yeah.
But it was fully furnished, literally ready to go.
It's beautifully done.
My kids would wreck that place.
That's why you don't live there.
Yeah. You got to replace everything glass with perspex or plastic.
The tap running though, that would be pretty standard. Right.
Yeah. Definite double thumbs up. Yeah.
Big thumbs up.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, you need to move, buddy. You got to move. That wall's coming down.
Where's it going? He's wondering.
Ah, there it is.
This is almost like, I don't even. My contractor would come and wash his grout, his hands with glue and grout, and all his workers would walk on the terrace and it would go in the pipe. And after a month, it solidified. And we had to break the damn wall.
Nearer there.
Oh dear.
Poor planning.
And poor execution.
Poor engineering.
Yeah. Kath, look how he's looking over it going,
Yeah, what was he doing? Is there a sinkhole? No, there's a gigantic hole in the board and you put it in me. This is it one of the newest ones.
One or?
No,
Oh, wow.
this is Paradigm in Opus.
yeah.
That was beautiful. The contractor absolutely smashed that.
I love that jukebox.
Yeah, it's so cool, isn't
It's
it?
cool.
So how long does something like this takes?
So it was already fitted. We kept the raised floor. We kept a lot of the ducting. The firefighting predominantly stayed the same. And I think from design to actually handing it over was 4 months. It was a super quick project. But the bar that they put in there was something else. I don't think it would have made it to the video.
Don't show those bits.
Double thumbs up or you're... Right, that's it. Thumbs down for the hairstyle for starters.
Yeah.
What is he doing? Now, I can't hear the audio.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's Australian.
He's going, at least
It's the hairstyle. It's
Yeah.
got to be. What do you do, mate? I'm just fitting the handles. Yeah. Handles.
the wrong way around, yeah. But they're flat. He's going, no, they're flat.
Still better than the
Just turn the instruction sheet the other way around.
this guy, a couple of guys, they wanted to speed up this particular room and they built the wall all around themselves without
It's couldn't get out the door. Oh dear.
Absolute
These are the professionals.
donuts.
Yeah, that's a nice house.
Yikes.
Oh,
Oh, what a view.
Where is that?
It's the Palm, I think. Is it the Palm? No, that's...
it's like Dubai Hills or
Oh, down Lemaire.
It is the Palm.
Is it? Wow. That's impressive.
I didn't know we
Jeez Louise.
high-end stuff.
Yeah. Neither did I, but I'll take it. But I'm seeing it as a positive that there's so much work and business happening that we haven't got our finger on the pulse for all of them.
That is insane.
That's got to be a 60, 70 million dirham villa now. For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, what a view.
Yeah. Wow.
Nice. Double thumbs.
Double thumbs up for that.
I think for that. Yeah, no.
Oh,
yeah, the disaster videos were definitely disaster videos. But it's nice. I haven't even seen these videos of the projects we've done. But, No, I haven't
Something-
even seen the yeah, it's lovely. But did you do the videos?
Some of them, yes. Yeah, mostly yes. Only like 2 or 3 titles.
Yeah.
Nice. Well done. Good job.
Good
Are we
stuff.
done? We tapping out?
Is that it?
Wicked. Peace out, guys.